This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
We have to keep our country gay.
Oh yeah.
Sexual anarchy.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday. Get ready for a good show. Is it not always a good show? Okay, maybe there's some okay shows, but you know, we got a good one. We're gonna have some fun as usual. We've got more, of course, updates on the Mar-a-Lago situation. With the documents, we get the documents. There were many dumps, many document dumps. No, I'm kidding.
Big, massive dumps.
But we do have information on it, by the way. We also have Trump versus DeSantis. The little cat fight continues. That's great. We'll have fun. We have, of course, Republicans pretty much breaking their own rules, their own laws. More hypocrisy, of course, as always. We have Florida. Look, Florida. I mean, what else can I say about Florida? All right. The right-wing government of Florida, they're doing menstrual checks. Getting a little invasive, big government. We're going to talk about that. We have Matt Walsh getting creepy about teen kids, teen girls, and so you're not going to want to miss that segment as well. With that said, everybody, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. And let's get started. Started. All right. A former lawyer for Donald Trump was asked to lie about returning documents taken from the White House at the end of Trump's presidency. Now, the Washington Post is reporting that in early 2022, the ex-president asked his lawyer, former lawyer, Alex Cannon, an attorney who worked for both the Trump organization and the Trump campaign, tell the National Archives and Records Administration that all the materials that were requested by the agency, again, this has to do with the documents, had been turned over. Despite the fact that they were not turned over, and the FBI literally had to go and search Mar-a-Lago and collect the rest of the documents that he had stored there that he shouldn't have, that didn't belong to him. So, all right, now according to the Post, Cannon, who had facilitated the January transfer of 15 boxes of presidential records from Mar-a-Lago to the National Archives, after archive officials agitated for more than a year to get all original presidential records, did not, I repeat, did not feel comfortable making such a claim. So Trump says, hey, go out there. You need to make a statement. You need to tell them, you need to write it down that they have everything. They have all the documents. They don't need any more documents. You have them all. And he was like, no, I don't think I will. No, I'm not exactly, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to tell them something because I don't know for sure. He reportedly told people that he didn't know if all the requested material had been returned, and added that other Trump advisors had encouraged Cannon not to make such a definitive statement. Oh, hey, look, yeah, I mean, Cannon, don't say that. Don't get yourself in trouble. Okay? Just don't do it. Don't make the... You know the history Donald Trump has with lawyers. You know that there were the first people that are under the bus. Rudy Giuliani is literally still stuck under the bus. He ain't getting out. Okay? Yeah, he's been getting dragged for a while now. I mean, look, being Donald Trump's lawyer is basically, you have to look out for yourself because he will ask you to do illegal things. Like, again, lying to the FBI about documents that should be returned because they didn't belong to Trump in the first place. So now, look, a source told the Post that Trump had even packed those boxes himself, and that he seemed determined in February to declare that all of the documents had been returned. So again, he personally went through them, which actually is kind of a surprise to me because that actually involves work. And that is not something that I see Donald Trump doing, actually working and doing something. But, okay, he packed the boxes himself and decided on all the classified or national security material that he would unlawfully keep, okay? Perhaps, of course, to sell to foreign nationals, or maybe somehow might consider them to use as leverage. I don't know. And then told his team to lie, to release a public statement declaring that he had returned, quote unquote, everything. This is what he asked Cannon to say as well, to make a similar statement. Cannon, who apparently has a working brain, okay?
I'm cognitively there.
He has a brain. He's used it, and he's like, no, I'm not going to say that we returned everything. I'm going to make sure to insulate myself because I know how much of a goddamn liar you are. Now, since he didn't do that, he refused the request and eventually was replaced, as this is him not lying for Trump, quote, soured the relationship. And he was replaced by Evan Corcoran, one of the lawyers who actually did do everything that Donald Trump had asked. And of course, Corcoran and Christina Bobb, former OANN host, had also signed a similar document but not the same. So let me get into that, right? Trump's team ultimately did not release the public statement saying that they had returned everything, but instead released a different message saying that the materials turned over were turned over in a friendly manner, but without saying that they had all been returned. The statement said, the papers were given easily and without conflict and on a very friendly basis. Now, of course, you go on True Social, you'll see that Donald Trump has said the opposite. Oh, no, they came in, they went into Melania's room, they searched through her cupboards, or her closet, they searched through her drawers, they fondled her underwear, they went through everything. Sure they did. Of course they did. Now, at the time, Trump said, that is different than the accounts being drawn up by the fake news media. Look, all of that right there, it kind of really shows you how Trump knew of what he had in his possession and not only lied about it, but ordered other people, his lawyers, to lie about it because he wanted to keep these things for himself. And again, of course, the reason that I think that he would want to keep them, not because the stupid, excuse like, oh, he just wanted mementos. No, national security and nuclear documents belonging to another country, that is not a memento that you should be able to keep. So, no, he knew that they did not belong to him, okay? And that's why he didn't return the documents. And also, again, I'm sorry, that's the problem with him not returning the documents. But to get to my earlier thought, I think he was going to sell them. And he's going to sell them to another country or a foreign power, somebody. So now Corcoran, as I mentioned, who replaced Cannon, lied about it, as well as Christina Bob. So look, if this reporting is accurate and Cannon did get sidelined for not lying, I'd say that's pretty troublesome. It's pretty damning. Is it surprising? No, of course not. You're kidding me? But damning, yeah. As for the Post, attempts to get Trump's representatives to falsely state that he had no presidential records in his possession could serve as evidence that he was intentionally and knowingly withholding documents. And if Trump continued to pressure aides to make false statements, even after learning the Justice Department was involved in retrieving documents, authorities could see those efforts as an attempt to obstruct their investigation. Obstruction, of course, is a crime. The Post also separately reported that several former aides said that Trump spent his time in office flouting these classification rules and intimidating staffers who might try to take secret intelligence material away from him. So I want to go to that report, because that's also interesting. In that, a longtime advisor who still sees Trump regularly described him as a pack rat and hoarder. Fascinating. That official, former official who knew that Trump took classified information to his White House quarters, says, I can't say what went wrong that resulted in some boxes ending up at Mar-a-Lago, but you can see that as an extension of 4 years of accommodating the president. Really? Accommodation? Is that what you're calling it? No, it's a crime. You're not supposed to take that stuff to Mar-a-Lago. I don't know how they ended up there. I mean, I guess it's just me because we coddled the guy. Those accommodations, by the way, included keeping Kim Jong-un's so-called love letters, right? And I don't call him that. Trump called him that. He says, I fell in love. Me and Kim Jong-un, we fell in love. Okay, great. By the way, he was really proud of that. The reason that he kept those out is so that he could brag to guests at Mar-a-Lago. Look at this murderous dictator. He loves me. It's the love letters from Kim Jong-un. It's unbelievable. He's just so infatuated with dictators. I think you know why. Aides also found other ways to circumvent what they considered to be Donald Trump's sticky fingers. I could make so many jokes. But let's not go that route. Okay. No, don't do it.
Sexual anarchy.
All right. White House staffers had retrieved from the residence documents that Trump had torn into pieces. Then reassembled the papers and returned them to secure facilities so that they could be preserved as presidential records. That, of course, echoes earlier reporting. But remember, there's also other reporting where he would not only just rip up the documents and, throw them around like confetti, but he would also flush them down the toilet.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
So that's what he would do. And others who routinely briefed Trump said that they developed a practice of never leaving classified documents in his possession unless he had demanded them. Many of these former officials also still knew that handing the baby all these documents carried risks, but the reason that they didn't do anything about it is because they were scared of him. One former official said that they, quote, didn't challenge him. Several people singled out Mark Meadows as incapable of telling the president that, basically, no. He just couldn't tell Trump no, which set a tone that others had followed.
Beta male.
All right. Now, that's how he got away with it, by the way. Look, he got away with it because he unmanned Republicans. The Republicans are so desperate for an alpha male, for a daddy, for a dictator, that they let him get away with all of this stuff. I mean, it's not just flouting norms, right? And doing things a little unconventionally, which, by the way, the Presidential Records Act, it's not like every single president followed it exactly to the letter, right? But with Donald Trump, it got worse. Much, much worse. It's not just, okay, so I forgot to file this, whatever. Here you go. Here's the document back. No, he's literally stealing secrets that did not belong to him and keeping them, hoarding them. For, again, what I think is the purpose of selling them. Now, the report also notes that, again, Trump pushed people around. Another former aide said they would have gotten their heads cut off by the president had they tried to take things from him because he is a baby. Now, does that sound like a very stable genius? No. That sounds like, again, a child and a criminal who didn't believe in serving the country, the United States of America, as a leader, but instead wanting to make the entire country serve him. As I've said it before, that's why Donald Trump loves dictators. He wants to be one. He looks up to them. Now, the thing is, for the time being, we don't live in a dictatorship, which is great. At least, again, not yet. We don't. There is rule of law, but the big question is, does the rule of law exist for people in power? Honestly, I'm not sure. Based on everything that we've gone through dealing with the former president and him skating away with everything. So, is there rule of law? Will he answer for the things that he's done? The times that he has broke the law? I'm not sure. And that is scary and dangerous. Okay. Skating Trump. I know. Try to not keep that image in your head. There is new audio that has been released by the New York Times' Maggie Haberman that is sure to set the stage for a Trump-DeSantis showdown. Take a listen.
Ron DeSantis.
He was at 3%. He was a great defender of mine in the Russian hoax. He was on television. But the people of Florida didn't associate with him with the word governor. In other words, they saw him constantly defending me on Russia, Russia, Russia. But, you know, oftentimes you see that, but you don't say, oh, he's going to be governor of Florida. He came to me, he said, I'd love your endorsement. I said, Ron, you're at 3%. You can't win. He said, if you endorse me, I can. And I said, well, look, you know, you never know, but it's not going to be easy. This guy's got $28 million. He's been running for 8 years.
Oh, yeah, he begged me for that endorsement. He wasn't going to win. He begged me. Drama. It's so delicious. It's so delicious. So, okay, let's get into this and to what it means politically. So, look, right now, everybody considers Ron DeSantis as the only person capable of taking on Donald Trump if he runs in 2024, which remains to be seen. I think it's very likely that he does run to try to get away from his legal issues, but so far he isn't declared. But there's still quite some time. But I've been thinking about this lately. And honestly, do I believe that Ron DeSantis is going to be a threat to Donald Trump at all? No. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. That said, according to Haberman, Trump sees it a little bit differently. In fact, here she is on CNN going over that.
There is no potential candidate in the Republican field who Trump has talked about more to aides than Ron DeSantis. It is a constant running discussion, and you really caught that, I think, in what he was saying to me, where he believes he made Ron DeSantis. Now, Donald Trump believes he makes a lot of people who he doesn't make. He definitely helped vault DeSantis over the top in 2018, but one of the things that I explore in Confidence Man is how he believes that if he does something for someone, they owe him fealty for life, including to the exclusion of their own future ambitions. And he clearly believes that Ron DeSantis, should be aware of the fact that Trump vaulted him ahead.
Look, hey, she's right. When it comes to the idea of Donald Trump making DeSantis, yeah, no, 100%. Would DeSantis be a thing without Donald Trump's endorsement? No. Again, he won by a very, very small margin. I mean, not a huge victory, not a huge upset. Okay. That said, Ron DeSantis has done very good for the voters of, or at least Republican voters of Florida, in not doing anything that actually materially improves their conditions of their lives, but in fighting the culture wars. And of course, owning the libs. He's made owning the libs a top priority. Oh, and cracking down against trans people. Yes, of course. That is why DeSantis is leading in the polls versus former Republican, now Democrat Charlie Crist, and is very likely probably going to win re-election. That's no doubt that MAGA approves of Ron DeSantis has been doing. But if you were to go against Donald Trump, understand that that's not going to matter. He's going to get destroyed, obliterated, unmanned. Okay? Because what Ron DeSantis is compared to Trump,
Beta male.
okay, he's not going to do very well. And look, the reason for that is because Ron DeSantis does not exude strength. He does not seem like a strong guy. You listen to him talk, and he's actually really boring. He's boring, a little whiny, in his voice, and this is not entertaining at all. Now, when you're talking about Donald Trump's a natural entertainer. He is a very entertaining person and kind of hilarious to listen to. He whips up the crowd, and look, on appearances alone, there's no way MAGA would choose DeSantis over Donald Trump. There's no way in hell. So if there is ever a head-to-head match, we know that immediately Ron DeSantis is going to bend down and lick Trump's boots. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Again, beta. That's what they are. Now, that said, honestly, I would actually rather have Ron DeSantis over Donald Trump be the 2024 nominee. And I know some of you might disagree with that, but let me give you the reasons, right? And look, I've even said this before. Oh, well, look, Ron DeSantis would be dangerous because he's actually competent. Okay, I've changed my mind on that. Donald Trump tried to orchestrate a coup with fake electors to overthrow our system of government. And he, again, commands a lot of, I guess, respect, fealty when it comes to Republicans, when it comes to Republican voters. And so, look, the only thing that's keeping him, I think, out of prison is the fact that the entire Republican establishment is definitely terrified of him. They absolutely are. Are they afraid of Ron DeSantis? I don't see that. I don't really see anybody afraid of Ron DeSantis. I don't see him inspiring that kind of fear in other people, in Republicans. Now, that said, why is Donald Trump so seemingly concerned about Ron DeSantis? Calling him, what was it, fat? And other, I guess, other things. I don't exactly remember what he called DeSantis. But I know fat was in there, which is kind of hilarious. Because, I mean, seriously, bro. Don't throw stones if you live in a giant glass house. But look, for Trump, though, the reason that he is concerned is because Donald Trump has one mode: attack. Being a deeply insecure person, well, you know, he becomes your classic bully. Fat and whiny. Thank you, Onyx. And look, if you're a bully, yeah, of course you're going to be super insecure, but you're able to unman people. And in this case, in Donald Trump's case, he's been able to unman the entire Republican Party as the establishment. Now, that would be originally be quite hilarious without all the other stuff that we know, because of the fact that they have literally let him get away with things that nobody else would. Nobody else would. That's what makes Donald Trump far more dangerous than Ron DeSantis. And why, if there is a challenge between those two in 2024, Donald Trump will absolutely win. Oh, that's not true. Trump has wine mode. Okay, yeah, fair. Does he need some cheese with that? Perhaps. Don Rose says, I'd rather Trump run, to be honest. He says he will never get elected again. DeSantis is a better chance, and him being president would be a disaster. Look, I think both would be an absolute disaster, but I do think Donald Trump has a much better chance of getting elected again than we would think. I mean, again, you even look at the comments here that we're getting from MAGA supporters right in the chat. They're 100% on board. They ain't hopping off that train. So when it comes to, 2024, his base is still there and they are fired up. They are excited. Any attack against him just makes him double and triple down. So that base of support, that ain't going anywhere. And if he's the nominee, Republicans, one thing they're really good at, it's falling in line to support their daddy. The hogs will never leave him, says Woozle 1967. All right. Republicans continue to claim that widespread Democrat voter fraud is rampant in all the elections, at least any election that they happen to lose. But yet here we have another situation where it turns out it's actually a Republican that's committing fraud. Weird. Now, this case involves an Alabama Republican Party chairman named John Wall. John Wall happens to be a staunch supporter of the state's voter ID law, and yet was busted using a fake ID to vote in 2 recent elections. Now, Wall had told AL.com, quote, voter ID is designed to protect people's vote from being stolen, and I fully support that concept. I believe the right to vote is sacred, and we should defend it. Okay, but you literally created a fake ID so you could vote. Now, here are the details. In November of 2020, in the party primaries in May 2022, Walsh showed up to the polls with what looked to be an employee badge, which was not a valid form of ID. Along with his name, the card read Regional Press Secretary and identified the Office of State Auditor according to an image obtained by AL.com. Where's that image? So that's what he used as a voter ID. On both occasions, a poll worker had challenged Wall's form of ID based, again, on the very voter ID laws that Wall had supported. Both times they had texted photos of the badge to a Limestone County probate judge. This is probate judge Charles Woodruff. Now, the thing about that is the probate judge approved it, even though it did not actually fit the law. So, wait, does that mean Mr. Wall, John Wall, is above the law? The law that he supports? Hey, laws for me, laws for me, thee, but not for me. I don't have to follow my own law. And of course, he makes excuses about it later on. Now, according to Secretary of State John Merrill, Alabama's top election official, this badge right there, is not a valid form of voter ID. Quote, it does not meet the standard of any voter ID requirements listed under Code of Alabama Section 17930, Merrill's office said. Now, how did he get it? Now, that's an even more interesting question. So, no doubt, it's a fake ID. It's not a real ID, and here's how he got it. Okay? Now, first, let's go to how his story of how he got it changed several times. Now, Wall told Newsweek that he obtained the employee badge several years ago after he was asked to assist State Auditor Jim Ziegler as a press secretary. He told a reporter that when he assisted Ziegler with setting up email systems, a third-party provider had asked him for credentials showing that he was authorized to do so. That's when he says he made the ID. Okay. Quote, we used a printer to print the ID. The reporter then asked him, you used a printer to print the ID? He says, we used a third party printer to print the ID. The reporter then asked him who he meant by we. Was it him and Ziegler? He said, yes. Now, when the reporter went and asked Ziegler, his response was, I kind of don't remember. I mean, my recollection is before he was ever party chair, I was doing one of my many investigations and that he had helped me do it. And I remember vaguely something about him needing some sort of ID that he could legitimately do this for me. That's all I remember. Oh, okay, great. Now, later on, Ziegler, after speaking with Wall, then changed the story to resemble his and then said, oh, the reason I said that earlier is because we had a bad phone connection. I couldn't quite understand what you were saying. So, bad phone. Oh, okay. Now, Ziegler also noted that his office does not create the IDs themselves, as badges are actually administered by the Alabama Department of Finance. Now, when asked, the assistant finance director told Newsweek that Wall's badge was, quote, not a door access card issued by the Department of Finance. So, wait, they're saying, the Department of Finance got him a badge, but the Department of Finance doesn't actually print out badges like that. And then they kept referencing this third-party printer. Now, the department also noted that it had never issued him a card, nor was Wall on the list of employees past and present in Ziegler's office at all. So, again, pure lies. And again, it's because Wall had literally designed and printed this ID himself with no authorization, complete with fake barcode. The finance department noted that it does not use barcodes on their IDs. Now, the reporter asked him, what's the barcode for then? Again, you can see it right there. The reporter, I'm sorry, he responded to the reporter by saying, it might be my birthday. Was it though? Well, it turns out that the reporter had decoded that. And when he did, it showed up as a sequence of numbers, mostly zeros, unlike anything on state employee ID badges. When he confronted Wall with that, he responded with, well, I'm not sure what that is, adding that the ID did not give him special access to public buildings, privileged information, or government records, but apparently you can use it to vote. He was also asked if he was aware of any other IDs being made for other people, or if this was the only one. He responded with, not that I know of. Oh, okay. Not that I know of. I mean, maybe. Are you making fake IDs for other people? I don't know. Now, there's one more irony, right? Republicans say that we need poll watchers. We need people to watch the polls so that we can, protect the vote, protect the sanctity of our elections. And we need the voter ID. But when his obviously fake ID was flagged by same poll workers, Wall actually got one fired. Public records show that Wall had pushed successfully in 2022 to have Clyde Martin, a retired electrical engineer, removed as a poll worker after Martin complained to the higher ups. Now, Martin, by the way, Martin didn't even stop him from voting. He's like, I don't know, that ID looks a little funny. I might want to call this one in just to see. And then, of course, they got a hold of that judge. Judge is like, no, it's fine. Okay. So Martin let him use it to vote. Now, Wall's excuse for bringing that ID in, by the way, is an excuse that none of us would get away with. He said that he left his wallet behind and that ID was all he had on him at the time. What are you going to do? You're going to make me go home and get my actual license? Why would you make me do that? Do you know who I am? I'm going to call into my judge friend. That's what I'm going to do. But obviously, they let him go because Wall is such a good conservative who cares about following the law and doing election integrity that he was allowed to have the benefit of the doubt. In fact, he told Newsweek, quote, election officials, including the probate judge, confirmed that it was an acceptable ID, for him, and I was allowed to vote. I've been voting at that same location for years, so I was well known to everyone there. Doesn't matter. Why should you get special treatment? Why should you not have to follow the law? Would anybody else get that same treatment? No, they would not. It's total hypocrisy. By the way, when Wall went back to the polls this year, he used that same ID again, even though he actually did have his actual license on him that was a valid form of voter ID. Doesn't matter. He did this on purpose. He's like, I still got my fake ID. It worked last year. Why not just, use it this year? Use it again. Nobody cares. I'm above the law. Now, the poll worker who replaced Martin, Sarah Chadwell, also flagged it. She told AL.com that she wanted to take a picture of it and research it herself. And that's when the probate judge allowed this, again, very fake, obviously fake voter ID to be used. Now, let me ask you a question. If Wall had been black, do you think they would have let him vote? I mean, honestly, do you think they would have let him get away with it? Say, oh, I left my ID at home, but I got this. No, they wouldn't have let him vote. We all know the answer to that. Look, we know the whole reason behind voter ID is just a way that the right wing wants to disenfranchise and suppress the vote. This is what they've become. It's all about hypocrisy. It's all about voting laws for people that we don't want to vote, but not for us. We're exempt. We're above the law because we're white and Republican. That's all you have to be to get preferential treatment, at least when it comes to Alabama. All right. Moving on. Redmond Berry says, poll workers are not racist. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about for like me implicating that the poll worker is racist for not allowing a black person to vote. What I'm saying is, if a black person came up with a obviously very fake ID and presented it, he would not be allowed to vote, he or she. That's just a simple fact. But because it's a white right-winger and the probate judge is on the side of the white right-winger, that's where they're allowed to vote. Okay. That said, let's go to Florida. I know. I bet you wish we wouldn't. But let's do it. In the newest example of the culture wars, Florida is now doing menstruation checks on student athletes to make sure that they are not transgender or pregnant. Now, this is according to a report in Fortune magazine. Before that they're allowed to take the field, female students in Florida are now being asked if they've had their periods and when they've had their periods, the last period they've had, and the frequency of their periods. Great. Now, look, here's the thing. Has that question been asked before of female athletes? Yeah, sure. Usually they ask that when it comes to physicals, right? And usually that information has been kept very private. In this case, it is not being kept private, and I'll explain why. So now the state, turns out, had changed the way that the answers of those questions about their menstrual cycles are collected and stored, and have even added a corporate third party. Now that's very important. So now this fall, districts including Palm Beach, Broward, Hillsborough, and Sarasota counties are going to switch to a digital platform called Activate, which was founded by former AOL CEO and News Corp executive John Miller. That company, which is not a medical care provider, is not protected by HIPAA laws, meaning that the information that they collect and store is not private protected information, even though it should be. That company could be forced to turn over all of that personal private data to the state if the state has a subpoena. Obviously, that is very disturbing when it comes to this personal private data. Now, how that's relevant, look, states all over the country since the end of Roe have been introducing and passing more and more extreme abortion restrictions, right? So this information could possibly be used for that. They're also working on, by the way, banning gender-affirming healthcare for transgender teens. Meaning, of course, again, this data could be used to out trans kids who want to compete in sports, or as well as teenagers who could be pregnant or have gotten an abortion. They could notice the gaps in menstrual data, which, by the way, I mean, that's not even indicative of anything. There are women who have irregular periods all the time. There are plenty of different, conditions, things that can happen to make, your periods rather irregular. Now, if you're an idiot and you don't know any of that, or by the way, I'll take that back. You don't have to be an idiot not to understand that. You could just not understand female anatomy or physiology or anything like that and just not have this knowledge. You'd be ignorant of it. You don't know this. And if you're working for the state of Florida, you might look at that and say, ooh, there's a noticeable gap between when this, and by the way, this is an entire creepy conversation to even have. It's just wrong, right? But under this, There are people that now are working for the state that have access to this data that are being charged with hunting down girls that they may believe have had an abortion. So they see this gap and they think, oh, it looks like we need to investigate this person. Now we need to investigate this person to make sure that they didn't have an illegal abortion. This teenage girl, this 16-year-old, 17-year-old, or younger. I mean, it's incredibly gross. What are we doing? What are you doing, Florida? What the hell's wrong with you? Now, let's also talk about, again, how this feels like an entirely new, worse form of invasion of privacy. As I said before, these questions are asked in physicals to ensure that they, that the students can participate in sports and are generally kept very private. The only page of this information is shared with the district is whether or not the doctor actually clears you to play in sports. No other medical information, such as your menstrual cycles, are generally shared, except in Florida, where they have made sure that all of the medical data is turned over to the school. So we're just going to turn over all your personal medical data to the school to ensure that you're not a transgender, basically. And at least one district keeps the entire full submitted medical packet for 7 years. So even after you graduate, they have that information, your personal information, on file. Disgusting. That is not your information to keep. This is private privilege medical information that the state, by the way, can now be used or can now use against women. Both cisgender and transgender women. If anybody who doesn't see that this is a war on women, you're blind. You're not seeing it. Why does the Florida government need to know about the period of a teenage girl? Why? Why is it that a state that says that they believe so much in freedom and hate big government getting into your personal lives, right? Why is that same government trying to insert themselves almost literally into the most private areas of a woman's life? Just so they can what? Do their culture war against the transgenders? And as a bonus, maybe punish some women for getting abortions? It's disgusting. It's sick. Get out of their lives. These are kids. These are teenage girls. Why do you need to know this personal information? Get out. God, get out of their pants. What is wrong with you? Everybody in Florida that's supporting this, Ron DeSantis, Florida government, conservatives, what the hell is wrong with you people? My God. What's next? Genital checks? Probably. Look, understand that this is what right-wing rule leads to. This is the right-wing surveillance state. It's all turning into Handmaid's Tale. And so look, if you're a woman living in Florida or any of these states that have such draconian restrictions against your own bodily autonomy, that's horrifying. That's what the right wing has done. It's absolutely horrible in this point to be a woman in Florida in these states. And I can't imagine it getting any better before it gets worse. Well, you got to stop the right wing and not vote for these horrible perverts that are trying to get in, and to learn about your personal information. Okay. Speaking of perverts, go to Matt Walsh. All right. Matt Walsh, the self-proclaimed protector of young girls against grooming, thinks that 16-year-old girls totally ready to settle down, get married, and have babies.
Ever since the beginning of time, teenage girls have been getting pregnant. It used to be more common. So to all of a sudden act like this phenomenon of girls getting pregnant at a young age that we consider young, 16 or 17, to act like it's a new thing is ridiculous. It's always been that way. Even biologically, and this is me just stating, I'm going to start by just stating facts. Girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Yeah.
Okay? That's biological. That's a fact, all right? I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm doing. But what happened recently, and this is the fourth fact, recently in the last 30 years or so, we decided that that's way too young to start a family. So what I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy. That's the problem in society. It's only problematic when you are not married and you don't have the man there to help you take care of the kids because he's a coward.
So yeah, that's Matt Walsh talking about the fertility of 16-year-olds. And we're supposed to believe that, what, he doesn't have a very suspicious browser history? That he's a protector of girls against grooming? I mean, ugh. All right, so look, he also says, guys, it's not the teen pregnancy is an issue. No, I think it's totally fine. It's just these young girls are not getting married. If only they just get married to a man, preferably someone who's much, much older. You know, maybe in his 30s, you know, so that the 16, 17-year-old girl, they can just be a good little housewife and be barefoot and pregnant, just the way that God intended. And you know what that sounds a lot like? Arranged marriages. Hey, you know who happens to be on the record supporting arranged marriages? This guy. Oh, would you look at that? Yeah. Arranged marriage would be vastly preferable to the modern approach to dating. Really, almost anything would be better. So that's not saying much, I suppose. Look, he's also went on his show talking about how arranged marriage is good because, you know, it's dating is like trying to find mustard when there's just too much mustard. Okay. Interesting. Now, I've got more. In the next clip, Walsh is also going to argue that when it comes to babies, teenage girls who are 16-year-old should be treated exactly like adults in only that context, by the way. In no other context, because remember, Matt Walsh is against bodily autonomy. He's not in favor of, you know, women controlling their own reproductive rights and being treated adults like that. But when it comes to being married and having babies, Matt Walsh thinks, no. You're more than old enough.
If society was different and that we stopped insisting that you're a kid until you're 25 and we just deal with the reality that at about 16 you're an adult who is mature and can make decisions. You are that at 16. I don't care what anybody says. And if you're going to tell me it's different, well, then how come for the first 10,000 years of human civilization, that's the way it was? It's just recently where all of a sudden we're all retards until we're 25. And I got some more news for you. 17-year-old girls and 18-year-old girls that are still in high school or just getting into college, many of them want, biologically and metaphysically and with everything in their body, they want to settle down, they want to start a family, and that's always going to be that way no matter what you do.
And I think a good example as to why that's probably true is the horse behavior of these same-aged girls when they get to college.
Sluts.
They start, you know, these girls, believe me, when I went to the University of Maryland, I was a little bit older than everybody. It was like you get there and you see these like innocent girls, and by the end of the year, it's just like the stories you've heard about them. It's like this internal need to breed, and it just comes out at the wrong time. They're out there trying to get an education, but meanwhile, they
the wrong time. That's a quarter, like to biology. That's the perfect time. That's when they're, like Matt said, is most fertile. But society has told you that when you're 18, that's when you're an adult, not when you're 16 or 17.
And that's the problem.
And then,
Wow. There is so much of that that is horrifyingly disgusting. But just the fact that you have these older men that are sitting there and talking about the fertility of 16, 17-year-old girls in the context of having babies. What? What is wrong with you people? And by the way, I just got to note him dropping an ableist slur in there, just for good measure, right? Now, one of the co-hosts, by the way, Andrew Muir, he was the one that called college girls slutty. So now, him and his co-hosts, they think that college girls, well, they're slutty because they have a need to breed. That's what it is. Yes, because they're so incredibly fertile. Yes, and so that's why they're whoring around. Yeah, And they tie it all to this weirdo, oh, it's biology. They're the most fertile. That's why we need to make it legal for 16, 17-year-olds to go and get married and have babies. No, it sounds like you're the ones who are interested in having babies with 16 and 17-year-old girls. High school girls. I mean, it sounds like they're really making an impassioned plea for this, to lower age of marriage, maybe lower age of consent in places where it, is older than 16, 17, so that, they can get involved in that. Look, Matt Walsh, you heard him. Those are his words. He's making the argument that this is a good thing, that this is completely natural, and wanting more teen girls to become mothers and tradwives before they hit their 20s. Forget your career, forget, having fun and, discovering who you are and getting an education, what you do with your life. Just go have babies. Go and get married. Wow. I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like groomer behavior. Just saying. And look, it's not an accident, right? I think the reason groomers target teens and young children is because, look, they're easier to control than an educated woman that happens to be in her mid-20s and 30s. I think that really illustrates who these men are. They can't stop talking about going back to the good old days, the 1950s, right? Where you can, impregnate minors, and that was totally normal. Everybody thought that it was great. I got news for you. You can call yourself traditional all you want and whine about those days. But in reality, you're just really showing that you're a groomer. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to end it here because that was an incredibly disastrous story. Ugh. Now, before I go, I want to see if there are any super chats or anything like that. Again, if that's one way to help the show, it's one very, very important way to help the show, as well as sign up for our Patreon and all that wonderful stuff. So let's go to that. Let's see. SBloom85, thank you for resubbing for 22 months on Prime. Appreciate that. Let's see. Koru, member, says today was particularly discouraging, Jeff. Not sure why. Yeah, it's maybe just all these horrifying stories. So, it is what it is. All right. Hopefully we'll have more fun stuff tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. Everybody, we're going to raid into another channel here. Let's do Left Flank Vets. Done that in a while. As far as everybody else, thank you. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. And like and share the clips. As usual, like our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitch. All the wonderful different ways that you can get with the show. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5 as well. All right, thank you all. Love you, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all back here tomorrow.
I like my new height.
Mike Pence.
We're under attack. It's the devil, okay?
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Bitch, move it along.